Hello, and welcome to Creatives Chat. Peter, why don't you tell everybody who we're chatting with today?
Ooh, Rusty, our guest is a Reiki and sound healer who's currently developing ways to create space for individuals to connect and communicate in their most authentic expression while still allowing space for all emotions to be moved through. She does so through art, comedy, and conversation, sharing tips she's gathered along the way and continuing to pick up as she moves through this beautiful dance called life. Our guest is Sarah, aka the Sacred Empress.
Everybody join us as we chat about who knows what.
Streaming from Retro Earth Studio and brought to you by
wearehistorically.com. Conscious human apparel.
Raise your vibration and energize your life with specialized Fibonacci tuning forks to deepen meditations and empower self-healing. Get your vibrational sound tools for personal enhancement at energybodytuners.com. Let's do it. Oh, Sarah, thank you so much for coming on Creatives Chat. How are you doing?
Good. How are you? Thank you.
Oh, I'm doing well. And I guess we can just really hit the ground running. One of the reasons why I brought you on the show is because in some of our talks back in Instagram, we used to do some lives with a few other tapped in beings. And it was always that recognition of the real recognizes real, someone who's going through the journey, who's gone along through the journey and is kind of consciously assimilating, this journey of the spiritual growth and transformation into the everyday life. And I guess that's kind of where I want to hit the ground running is how's your journey been? How's life?
So let's just take a breath because I would say that there's levels to it, right? There's I'm like willing to tap into this a little bit more. And then there's, once you get into it, there's like things that need to be unpacked. There's things we have to look at. There's trauma that has to be felt, healed, all that stuff, right? And so I kind of started that journey when I graduated from college in 2018. And I've been gifted my whole life, but I never realized it was in this space. I've known I've wanted to help people for a really long time, and I've always had really vivid dreams, and that vivid visualization aspect of it has played into my journey as well. As of right now, things are looking up. I really reviewed many of the stories that I've held in previous lives in this life, while integrating that into who I am now. And so I'm definitely at a point in my journey where I'm ready to kind of hold that space and work on helping people get to this level of self-mastery, because I very firmly stand on, like, if we're good, we can be good to each other. So, and that's where we got to start. We got to work on ourselves first. And that's my journey. That's my mission. So, yeah.
Well, to me, I see it as the perfect time for this realignment, these types of awakenings, because there's been a shift consciousness wise in terms of just the collective, and more people who have really been ready for that journey to look within. You could say just were activated. And I like how you said that, though. It's really not something for the faint of heart. I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions of spirituality, or even healing or healers, or whatever people want to call such facilitators. It's this essence that it's all just hugs and kisses, and and just a bunch of like tree hugging hippies, like
it's like we do that too, but
yes, we love trees, but whoa, they have nothing to do with this. But that's the essence of it, though, is it takes a different kind of being, from what I've seen, to kind of courageously look at that type of shadow work and take part in it consciously, because it is so uncomfortable. So I guess right in the juicy thick of it is how is some of your kind of experiences transformed into wisdom that you can help people through that journey themselves.
Yeah, honestly, just like being patient with yourself, and also like how you're feeling is not wrong. You're feeling the
Ooh, right.
way that you are for whatever reason the divine is making it be for you, whether that be to heal a past trauma, whether that be to help you move forward into something else that's going to bring you more abundance. There's this level of, even in the dirt, knowing that something will grow from it, and trusting that something will grow from it. Yes, yes, yes. So good. I'd be saying things sometimes. I'm like, let me write that down. That's real good. But yeah, no, you can trust yourself a lot more than you think you can. And that is something that, like, even when I look at, where I've gotten to at this point in time, and I think about where I was 2 years ago, I'm like, wow, I'm so grateful for all those hard things that happened, because like it wouldn't have unlocked these next steps for me to get here. So
I mean, taking a breath on that one, because
yeah,
that's
just take that in.
because it's a level of surrender and acceptance.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that even just hate that term acceptance, which is why, I mean, a lot of people use the term surrender, because to accept that type of pain, to accept that type of past, maybe mistake or regret, those are the things that really haunt people. But when you approach it with that word gratitude, I think that's kind of like the secret magic sauce that always kind of pushes people through into the level of humility, of accountability too, in all reality. And that's kind of the toughest part of this journey, is like, no, it's on you, playa. Like, it's always been on you.
Right.
But I think the real essence of what I really want to highlight here is the giving yourself the permission to feel.
Yeah.
Holding space for yourself is so important. And it's that first aspect of really applying love to self. Like, self-love is what we call it. But in truth, it's like, no, hold space for yourself to really feel what you're feeling, not negate it. Like, it's been been a reoccurring theme as of late. Actually, it's been coming up. So I'm just like, I've been seeing it. Well, I've been seeing it everyone in terms of just the network, and just like how life's patterns are playing out. And it's just this constant recognition where it's like, no, there's something deeper, and you need to give yourself the space to really like process it.
Right. Exactly. Wow. I know. I love that you mentioned the this community, this space sometimes can feel like, oh, it's all love and light. Like, I literally was talking to my friend about that recently, and I'm like, no, it's not. It's not all love and light. It is, because the light will shine on the darkness and reveal itself. So just keep that visualization in mind, right? But
yeah. That's the biggest part of this journey, though, is they don't tell you, and they really can't tell you, because we always carry our own assumptions and expectations into what people think, awakening, liberation, all these things really means. And you can't really get to the juicy, the goodness, the love, the bliss, the oneness. You can't get to all that without fully letting go of all the things holding you down.
Exactly.
It's these self-imposed weights. And I'm curious, in terms of just your own journey, how has these past 2 years really put you in the position to consciously liberate yourself from some of those, I guess you would say, like, chains of the past?
Yeah. So definitely me going through my Rolodex of things I've processed. Like, there's so much. I think how it all began, like what kind of like triggered my interest in this was I continued to see like 777 really often. And that was like the first like number sequence thing that I ever saw. And I was like, I need to know more. And I stumbled across a video of like, how your higher self's supposed to like, are trying to communicate with you. And I was like, higher self? I mean, like, I'm pretty great, but there's like another version of me that's even better. I'm into it. So I connected with my higher self April of 2020. So right at the beginning of the pandemic and all that stuff. And it kind of just like continued to tumble. And the reoccurring thing was I needed to identify what real unconditional love looked like in my life. And by identifying that, it unveiled all these places I wasn't allowing that in, or had preconceived ideas about what it should be. And I'm talking about, like dynamics that we have in our lives. How is a relationship with my parents supposed to look? How should it have looked as a child? Inner child healing, learning how to parent myself, not looking for love outside of myself, period. And knowing that all of those pieces are so accessible within me. So it's been challenging, to say the least. But we've made it through, and we'll continue to make it through. So.
Oof. And so many facets to look at, but the ultimate kind of core truth that just keeps ringing through is really reflecting and allowing yourself to really learn from your own beingness.
Yeah.
Giving yourself permission to learn from those things. And I think that's one of the hardest parts about these journeys, is the aspect of you kind of are alone during it. There's no one else that can really process these things for you. You have to look within. And that's another one of those little misconceptions of people who are really about it, is that it takes kind of I like to always see it as kind of courageous warrior soul to partake in the inner looking, because you have to fight those internal demons. Like pretty straightforwardly. It's like there's really no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Like when you see it, you can't unsee it, and you're like, oh.
I know. It's like sometimes I'm like, well, I mean, can I just like put it back in a box? And it's like the second I would ever do that, I would get sick. Like I only become ill when I act like I don't want my gifts. That is it. Like I don't get sick for anything else. And like one of my close friends, like he had that experience too. And he's like, why are we sick? And I was like, because we're not acting right. Spirits had to know.
Well, I guess that's something that's really kind of interesting to tap into, that realization of when you're not living out your truth, you see consequences from it.
Ooh, that was loud. Yep. Yeah.
So yours comes in the sense of sickness. So what is it that you have stereotypically ignored, or or generally ignored, that would lead you to?
You're just getting right into it, aren't we?
I mean, we might as well. It's all about tapping into the deep end.
Let's see. Something that I've ignored.
Yeah, like a nice cause and effect example for the listeners.
I can't think of things because I haven't been sick for a while.
Right.
Oh, you know what? No. When I don't rest. So I have a hard time not knowing things. I've been called a know-it-all since I was 4 years old. But which I mean, now knowing what I know, obviously that's like a seeking for the greater wisdom that exists beyond the planet, if you will. Yeah. But I don't like there being lingering problems. Like I have really struggled with being here now. And either I've wanted to go into the future a little bit or understand the past. And recently I've gotten to this point where it's like, there's nothing to undo or to look to. And when I'm not here now is when I get okay, you need to rest, or I'm having a really challenging time verbalizing this. When I go and I try to figure things out, I need to know what's next. I need to know what's happening.
Yeah.
That's when I'll get sick, because it's no, your responsibility is to rest. And so I've really been working on integrating the physical feeling with the emotional feeling. And it's if I feel like I'm ready to keep going and overwhelmed myself, then I'll take a step back and be okay, let's maybe evaluate this from a more objective perspective and see what my body needs right now, because otherwise it's not going to be a good time. And there'll be certain things, just because I've really worked hard on understanding the medical things too that my body needs and stuff, and some of those things will start to come up in uncomfortability physically, And then I'm like, ooh, okay, what aren't we taking care of here? And so, yeah, I hope that was clear. I know we're kind of jumping everywhere. I have a really difficult time explaining things chronologically. It's just like pieces everywhere.
That's just the flow of creation.
True.
It just
True.
stems and branches out, and it comes back around, and it always is, as I've heard it expressed, speaking in poetry or speaking, in art, and it's just like, yeah, because you have to flow and go in your own direction.
Yeah.
It's not just going to be some type of rigid, I don't know, I would say stoic conversation, like question Q&A, like, how is this and this and this? It's like, no,
Sure.
it's allowing two beings to just converse. And I've always found that's the magic of, this show, is when two people can really just chop shop, and when it comes back into the self-awareness, there's nothing more important. And I just think of all the years that have been wasted for so many of us. And you think in like school of what we could be learning on terms of how to, like, in terms of what you're talking about, that bodily integration of like what you're like what the emotions are, presenting you, and what the physical body actually is demanding. And to have that type of self-awareness to the body, we think of how many issues we could avoid just by listening, just by holding space for ourselves in that own line again, where it's like, to be able to perceive what the physical form is trying to let you know. It's like, you wouldn't keep running a horse if it had a broken leg, or at least I'd hope not, and it's the same thing with us. It's the misconceptions and conditionings we have to always have that Energizer bunny, go, 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 go.
Yeah.
Rather than looking at life and realizing we are life. So we kind of have to fundamentally operate like life. Contraction, relaxation, tension, release, like all that stuff is like pivotal. And if we don't do it for ourselves, it's like burnout inevitable.
Yeah. And like the longer you do it, the worse the burnout's going to be. I've noticed that. It's like, if you really push it, there's I don't know, maybe like a month or so ago, maybe not, maybe a month and a half ago or so, I definitely pushed it. I pushed it hard, and my body was like, so now we're sleeping in bed for 2 days because you wanted to act like we didn't try to tell you to stop. So
you thought you could keep doing it, and it's those old patterns that come out.
Right.
I've always found that that's kind of my similar path. Is life humble checks me real quick.
Oh yeah.
It doesn't take much, or it's like, you better stay on the path. And it's just like, but if I put my toe on this over edge, it's like, okay, spirit, I get it.
It's like, I'm sorry.
I was just curious, but that's the beauty of self-awareness, and awareness itself is being able to see the subtleties and the divine synchronicities that are always kind of presenting. And that essence of, when you start seeing numbers and patterns repeat, what was the floodgate? I know you mentioned the 777, but what was the floodgate of actually kind of taking that sense of seeing it to then kind of pointing, or I guess you'd say putting the kind of dots together?
Yeah, so I'm so glad you asked this. I'm going to tell you about when I met my higher self, because I wanted to share this with people for a while.
Let's get it.
So I saw this video on YouTube, and this lovely woman was talking about like, oh, like you'll see numbers, but then you'll like, there was 3 different reasons. And I remember there was numbers and like you have vivid dreams. I forget what the third one was, but she basically like gave like a talk through of like how to open your crown chakra to like receive like a higher level up. And I had never done that before. And so I sat in my bed and I put on a 963 hertz headphone, just in the vibes, and like I heard my voice but like different a little bit, and I was like, I've lost it. This is it. This is and I was like, you know what, nobody has to know about this. This is fine. I can just keep this to myself. And she goes, you don't have to be scared. Like, let's just like chat. And so I like allowed myself to visualize that space in my head of I call it the control room. It's this beautiful white space that all of the team, all of the spiritual team, the guides, they have a nice big meeting table. And they're like, so this is that place. And so it's like, if you like go on my Instagram and you see like me in this like Empress outfit, that is the person I saw. And so it's like, that is so special to me, because I'm like, that's like her. I mean, her outfit has definitely upgraded since we've gotten more wear. So more to come there. But
I love it.
But yeah, it was just so magical. We just like, I don't even remember what we talked about, honestly, but it was just like, she's like, you're ready to like start this. We're ready to start moving it. And I'm like, okay, cool. I want to know more. I'm interested. And at that point in time, I think at that point in time, I had started reading tarot as well. Like I'd started to learn more about tarot reading. And so I think the signs from that to me going into this higher self, later that month, my friend and I, my best friend, love her, she, we did this vow of silence for our birthdays. Our birthdays are really close together, and at the end of April. And so when the sun moved into Taurus, we took 2 days and we shut our phones off, didn't talk to anybody, and just meditated, and like had no history of like meditating like this, like, and and so we're like, let's like purposely do a Kundalini awakening. After knowing about it for like a week, I was like, let's get into it. And yeah. And now we're here. But it was super like magical, and just like to I had the opportunity to just like stay at home and not go anywhere, but to just like be in my space. Like that was the first time that I really held space for myself with intention, and didn't allow any outward input to come in, whether it be on my phone, on the TV, like, and I just listened to just like the different like chakra sounds that you can find, the keys or whatever.
Yeah.
And so, and I did that like first day I did from root to solar plexus, and the second day was heart to crown. And so I just did that for like 16, 17 hours. And then we didn't eat either, because there's like a scientific reason as to like attached to Kundalini awakening, which, forgive me, I don't know exactly what it is, but we didn't eat for the 2 days either. And so yeah, super magical. And so now that's like a tradition we have. So instead of celebrating our birthdays on the actual days, we this will be the first year this year, we're getting together. We're just gonna like take time for ourselves, and it's like super fun. So yeah.
I love it. And the self-imposed initiation, or the self-guided journey within, holding intentional space for yourself, those are things that each of us can always do, but it's that little subtle boundary that takes us from just the concept of it to actually applying it. And I think your experience is just another testament to the journey when we give ourselves permission just to adventure. How it always leads us into something magical. And especially when it's something made out of love, it's based in that concept of just giving yourself permission to be you.
Yeah.
Oh, what's the worst that could happen?
Yeah.
Massive downloads and just a complete paradigm shift.
I know. It's like you're just like walking through the grocery store and like get this like massive message, like, I am in Safeway right now. Like I can't. What am I supposed to do with this?
Well, that right there, this is the connection with spirit. And kind of, I mean, you kind of loosely said it, like, am I losing it right now?
Yeah.
I think each of us goes through that point of kind of questioning our own sanity, because ultimately to question your own beingness, to question reality, to question existence, you have to kind of enter the realm of what people call crazy.
Yeah.
And to some extent, because you have to really just say, like, all of that is wrong. And it's just this, like, to me, the way I look at it is that it's just crazy in name only, because in truth, it's the most logical thing is to come to your own realization of this world, not hold on to some mass psychosis of just perpetual assumption attachment. So, but when you have to question everyone and then you, what kind of took you through it to realizing that it's like, no, I'm not batshit crazy. This is real. I'm experiencing this. Others are experiencing this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what was that one moment where it was that kind of reassurance to the heart?
Yeah. So luckily for me, I had a group of people who were also thinking that they were crazy. So we just like all kind of like thought that together. So but it was, and I'll probably mention this best friend of mine often in this chat, just because she is such a soul sister to me. Like we live different lives, but the things that we go through at the same time. And like, she is my rock, and I just love her to death. And she's just lovely. And
Feel free to shout out.
Yeah, so Jillian, my homegirl, she's gonna watch this. Hello. She's gonna be like, I'm not crying, you're crying. I promise that's what's gonna happen. But anyhow, it's really surrounding myself with people that, well, and it wasn't even that I knowingly surrounded myself with people that knew what I was dealing with or anything like that. It was just, they came to me, and we crossed paths at the right time, and we all kind of like went through this awakening together. And I mean, given the stance of current world events, I mean, there was definitely, like you mentioned, a massive like, oh wait, I like don't have to plan this anymore. And yeah, I'm gonna say something controversial yet brave. Like the last 2 years, based on the current world climate and everything, has been an extremely transformative time and incredibly like purposeful and divine. Even though I know and recognize the things that came of it, it's like this was the first time that within our lifetime, parents, grandparents, all of that there was all something we had in common and we all had to go through. And that happens collectively all the time for people who are aware of it. But when you're so deep into this like paradigm that has been created, and you don't even realize, oh wait, I do have choice. I do get to like play and like pick what I want to do. And you're not knowingly aware of all the steps in it. It's like that, this happening, this like world shutdown was like, oh, things can be different. And so, yeah.
How you said that though, like the people in the community came to you. That's this essence of even the double-edged sword that the Rona kind of served as, right? Where it's when certain things get activated, the dominoes just kind of fall. And from there, things just start to gravitate towards you. But being able to have that pause is the only way that you can actually put yourself in the place to receive the grace, right? Like, so it's pretty it's pretty trippy though, because it comes back to the essence of what you were talking about earlier, and the importance of rest, the importance of really giving yourself permission to just be, and to feel the feels, to dive deep in whatever you need to dive deep into. And ultimately that's just that expression of love again. It always comes back to, it's been this recurring theme, and I just feel like it's just so important just to keep kind of putting it out there. But there's nothing more important than pouring on that love than onto yourself right now. Like with everything going on, even more so, like to be the light of love for your own beingness and to radiate that light for others and yourself is the only thing we can do right now.
Yeah.
And to hold space for each other, again, it just comes through that light of love. And in your own journey, I guess that's kind of the next avenue where you find yourself having this community kind of naturally unfolding before your eyes. It helps you mitigate the kind of am I crazy?
Yeah.
How do you take this to the next step of kind of taking the reins on this inner looking, post the 2-day intensive?
Yeah. So it's like, that's the only time. So when I feel tired now, I allow myself to rest. When I can't hang out with people, I don't. If anything brings me any level of anxiety, I don't need to be doing it. And It's like the level of taking care of yourself is not just let's do a face mask and paint our nails, which like 100%, that's like a piece of it. But like it's taking care of yourself at every opportunity, whether it be letting yourself feel the joy, whether it be letting yourself rest, you know, and treating yourself, treating your body. Like, I don't know. It just, I know that in my heart of hearts, like I don't want to feel the way that I felt before. And so knowing the things that I had did or didn't, or I had done or did not do or whatever, I know that I don't want to continue to do those things because those actions were from places of hurt. They were places of unhealed emotion. And those emotions have come up and been looked at and cared for and put to rest. And so I'm not, I'm really like taking the opportunity to like live life now and not just like, I don't know, pain isn't a feeling that we have to feel all the time. Like it's not, it's like a duality thing. It's a push and pull. Like it's not, okay, my standard is being sad. Like going forward, you know, even though some days it feels like that. It's like there's days that that'll be the case and just days that it won't be, and allowing the fluidity in life, which is something I'm learning to practice more truthfully, because I've really struggled with letting things flow. And yeah.
To me, the one core of this that speaks honestly what a lot of people have always gone through is that pivot point of the pain of what are we going to stay in the kind of pity party, or are we going to transform the pain into a power?
Yeah.
And to me, I don't know, my intuition's just telling me, it's like, I mean, so you're only really ready to let it go when you're ready to let it go.
Yeah.
You know, you can hold on to pain forever, but even just saying that, you know, that's almost like a very controversial hot topic thing to say. And I know it's always been a constant thing that comes up, because I know myself, Rusty, and a lot of others were in the perspective, it's like, and yourself included, it's like pain's optional.
Yeah.
You know, you can choose to suffer. I mean, it's not like there's going to be a painful experience that's going to pop up in the beingness, like that's inevitable. But in terms of the kind of attachment to it and letting it dictate the reality,
yeah,
that's on you.
Yeah. I think the thing that I tell myself is like, if I am uncomfortable about walking away from the situation, like I can't let something go quite yet, there is still something left unhealed there that is not being seen. And so if I can't walk away, I accept, you know what? Maybe I'm not supposed to walk away from this right now. There's something else to be healed there. And I remain patient with myself through that process. And also, like if I feel uncomfortable about making a decision, no matter what it is, if I'm not in a place like, and if I'm not aligned enough to like not make a decision, or to make a decision, sorry, then I like don't need to be making one. For example, like if, I don't know, these examples, they just like, phew, and then they're gone. But yeah, if I am not aligned, then I don't need to be making a decision. And on whatever the case, whatever the difficult thing, like for example, now I get it. Now I got it. If I am getting super anxious at my job and like I don't want to work there anymore, like whatever, if I'm really frantic, I know that I'm not aligned, because I'm going to feel good about the decisions that I make. I'm going to feel good about the things that are good for me. And if I don't feel good about a decision, I don't need to be making one. So that's what I was trying to say.
Ooh, that right there, though, is a powerful recognition, is the subtleties of what your own intuition, the bodily feedback's trying to tell you.
Yeah.
And it goes hand in hand with that aspect of allowing yourself to immerse yourself in whatever's coming up in the beingness. So, I mean, again, just to love it, just to hold its space, just allow it to unfold how it needs to. And what you said was super important. You know, if there's still a pain that's coming up, clearly there's something still to process.
Yeah.
how many people naturally, I feel like, just have this misconception of like meditation, that you have to like silence your mind, that they overlook the fact that sometimes it's just the beingness trying to really express itself. And
Right.
because I don't know how, this is actually a really cool avenue to explore. So
Sure.
let's dive into some insights of how we all process and perceive.
Sweet.
So
I'm into it.
for me, when I was going through that phase of kind of deconditioning the self, kind of
Yeah.
looking at things and recognizing different aspects of the past pains, kind of going through the Rolodex of memories,
Yeah. Thanks for
it
that.
was, oh, when you said it, I was just like, I got you, fam. I do that. I'm just like, that's literally how I visualize. I'm just like, all right, let's see here. We got to go through. But it comes back to that essence of when I would be in meditation, I would myself again intentionally just sitting and holding space, just observing everything and just letting it be. It would just be like some representative emotion or experience would just pop up and be like, and let's just rehash it all. And it's just like,
Yeah.
okay, this is a pretty interesting recap.
Right.
But just even perceiving it from the different perspective of just like, okay, well, let's just give the body and the beingness space
Yeah.
to
Observe
allow
it.
this to process. It was just that realization where it's just like, oh my gosh, like the I guess you would say like the ego, like the essence of the being or the body, it's just almost, I don't know, you could almost call it like it's digesting experience. It's
Yeah.
processing the experience. It's regurgitating it. It's chewing it up, and it's just jumping off on all these tangents. And I'm just sitting here, just like laying back, just like, oh my gosh, like this is pretty intense. Like, what's going
Up
on
against
here?
the wall of your
Yeah,
brain.
right.
Like,
Yeah,
how did I
just
get
like,
here?
this is pretty intense. And then all of a sudden, it was just get to this point of realization. It's like, but it's okay.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
it just gone, and it was just like,
Yeah. I
wait,
know.
what?
I know, it's like when you serve as the observer of these thoughts that come up, it's like, oh yeah, that's just a thought. That isn't me. And it's like when you accept how we are all sources of unconditional love, those thoughts don't mean anything. Like they're just a part of your human experience and they helped you get to where you are now. And so, but yeah, definitely like sitting in meditation, like I had a hard time doing that at the beginning because I'm like, I'm gonna meet with my higher self. We need to meet in the boardroom, and your expectations start rising. And it's like, wait, no, like, and now, I sit on the couch and I'm like, hey, spirit, and like I talk out loud to them now. So from an outside perspective, if somebody were to walk into my house, be like, who are you talking to? And I'm like, my guides, leave me alone. Like, it's
Not
fine.
you.
Yeah, not you. Or like sometimes too, my higher self. So like for a long time, I talk about myself in the third person to people, like, wow, I'm so proud of me for that. Way to go, Sarah. And people be like, I love that you talk in third person. And I'm like, that's my higher self that just fronted, but that's fine. If you want to believe that that's what's happening, okay.
Interesting. So that's its own aspect of people tapping into source and spirit in their own unique way.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that's kind of again, it comes back to the point, like, when did you realize that you're not losing it? Like, when did you recognize the pathways to tap in?
Last week.
I love it.
No, but and I say last week jokingly, but
but it also really, some breakthroughs.
It really set into me like that. Me being a healer is very important to where the Earth's life is right now, and how like a collective consciousness is shifting into this new earth, so to speak. That's what the spiritual people are talking about in the communities or whatever. And it's going to take a massive amount of healers, specifically people who know this work, people who know the energy of working with self, to do it on a global scale for people that can't or aren't necessarily like there yet. And so I was like, oh, I like need to have it together because, the earth needs me. Like I'm just as important as like, history's healers and like shamans and Reiki healers and monks, and I'm sure there's so many more that I am maybe not familiar with at this point in time that are so important to every single part of this process.
Yeah. Well, that right there in of itself is the most urgent matter to everyone in the upcoming weeks, months, years, is this transition.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, again, we've all seen the split. You've either been about the life or you've been kind of about the repeating the same shit different day.
Yeah.
But ultimately, more people, as I see it, in their depths of their being, are choosing this path of higher self, of coming in tune and oneness of essence of creation.
Right.
And unfortunately, I do see a lot of others kind of going along those self-destructive paths, but those light that are the healers, we've all been activated. And I think something that's cool is just to know that we have to kind of do it our own way. We tap into it with our own unique beingness, because we're here for a reason. I love how you have, like, to me, the Sacred Empress. I love it because it's recognizing the God and goddess in each being, and it's realizing it's like, no, it's like you're royalty to be here right now. You carrying that light and putting it out into the world for others to kind of ignite their own flame and to continue to spread that love is, I don't know, if we want to think of this like a movie, it's just like we're all just like star-studded cast of the Avengers out here, but we need to actually look within ourselves and realize that,
get our own franchise.
I know, right? Get our own franchise. How can I phrase this? It's because it's been coming up in a lot of different dreams and even just conversations where we need to hold on to our own, I don't want to say like divinity, but we need to hold on to our own sanctity, that it's just like we're each sacred. And really emulate that in how we live, that it's like, no, like, you're sacred, I'm sacred, the tree's sacred, fly's sacred, because that's the energy of love that's really going to help the healers kind of like tap into that collective power to really uplift everybody. It's like full blown one. If you want to like live about love, you got to really full blown live love, live oneness, live the essence of like namaste. It's a choppy.
It is. Well, because it's like the thing that's coming to mind, just like the major player in that is the release of judgment. The release of judgment towards ourselves, the release of judgment towards, other people. And like, for a while, I was like, wow, I'm a healer and I'm learning so much. And like other people aren't as healed as me. I had to like snap out of that ego thought, right? Because it's like, are you kidding me? Like, you think that that's coming from an unconditional place of love? Like, you can't like stand in self-mastery and love and everything when you are judging other people's journeys. And that is something that I really like, because these ideas and these thoughts of the Sacred Empress and like even future of what I want to do, those images and thoughts and projects and everything, those ideas have come to me months, years ago. And I knew that I wasn't supposed to like do things about it because I still needed to like figure myself out. And like, I knew that I couldn't, again, stand up here and be like, I'm the Sacred Empress and be like, but get it together. Like, and I'll tell you to get it together, but in a very kind way and loving and seeing where you're at. Like, but yeah, it's so interesting because like this is like being psychic and having visions and all of these things is so not how I thought it was going to be. Like, that's so Raven, grew up on that. Like, I'm like, yes, girl, I'm into it. And literally sometimes I find myself doing that and I'm like, I just like laugh. Like, oh my goodness. But it's like, it's just life. Like, it's just every day. It's just another tool that I use to live. Ooh. And it's just really cool. Like,
liberation from assumption is a powerful happening. And that's been probably the coolest aspect of what you're talking about right there in terms of awakening to your powers. awakening to your abilities is, it's like we're all unique divine beings and we all can tap in different ways.
Right.
And that's probably the most interesting thing, is how we're each so special. We each
Yeah.
all have our own ability to like tap in a certain light, in a certain unique thing. It's when you get the collective together, it's almost like you get all the different pieces of the puzzle to kind of figure
Right.
shit out spiritually. You're just like, okay, so you're feeling the energy, I'm seeing it, you're hearing it, you're tasting it. Okay.
Tell me about that. How is that for you?
Exactly. It's just like, well, that's pretty cool, like
Right.
yeah, taste through it. But that's the kind of thing that, again, it comes back to that essence of, when did you start to see the divine timing of even those things unfolding into you kind of utilizing it as a tool and not kind of getting caught up in the egoic trap of the like enamor of abilities?
I think that it's always been like, and it's, but my level of comprehension of it has changed. Like,
interesting. I like that.
I don't know. I think I've always like had this like gut feeling and like in my heart knowing that like what I'm doing is right, but it's just been the ego that is like, no, like, go away. No,
Always.
these thoughts not real. But can you repeat the question?
Well, it would be like, when did you know, in the essence of like your spiritual abilities being valid and you kind of honing them as the tool versus getting caught up in the egoic trap?
Okay.
When did that switch kind of be like, ooh, it's not just powers, it's like, oh, I can actually like utilize these to help myself and to help others and to...
I think probably after I got certified as Reiki Healer, which would have been April of 2021. After I had like a really incredible like experience, because are you familiar with Reiki at all?
Yeah,
okay, cool. Well, I'll explain it for the viewers.
Yeah, get a little elevator pitch.
So Reiki healing originated in Japan. Oh, I'm a bad Reiki healer. I cannot remember the person's name. Yusi? Yeah, Yusi, that's the name. And but he kind of founded, he's like known as the father of Reiki, and it's the practice of using universal energy to channel through an individual to heal specifically. And you have to be attuned to it. And so I got the attunement, and that was an incredibly like powerful process, because it was the first time that I had such a vivid, important visualization at the hands of somebody else, if that makes sense. I'd never done Reiki. Like I had never gotten a Reiki treatment before I got certified as a Reiki healer. And I had a calling. I heard about Reiki from a massage therapist, and it just was like in passing, I heard about it. And I'm like, oh, that's like what I'm supposed to be doing. I just knew. I'm like, okay, that's it. And that was probably like December before. And
Wow.
So I met with a Reiki healer, and she's just amazing. And she's a Reiki master. And we did this attunement process, and I felt like a part of my DNA activate in a way that I'd never felt before. Like, I'm just going to walk you through what happened. I feel comfortable. You're like, let's go. You got me on edge. Like, what? Yes. So essentially, like, Reiki, she started to do the attunement, and she had me imagine like my crown chakra opening and allowing this like light to flow into me. And I watched every cell in my body turn to snowflakes. Like, that's what it felt like. And it was just crystallizing. And as we continued, I watched a portal like in my chest like open, and it was it was like waterfalls around. It was just waterfalls. And I was on this like board, like floating in the middle of this like beautiful terrain, and just like luscious, like garden-esque, like beautiful. And like all of my guides and like ancestors and stuff, like I was seeing it from their perspective while also being in my body. And then like I started to float up, and as I went up, I saw a Merkaba for the first time. And I didn't know what that was at the time. And so
like,
she, like, I was just like, oh, what are these triangles? Like, what? And like, I went up, and then like, by the time I was at the top of this portal, she was done. And she's like, so tell me what she saw. And I explained it to her, and she's like, like, oh my God, like what? And
I love it.
yeah, and she's like, oh, I think you saw a Merkaba. And I was like, what is that? And then she was like, and it just like clicked, and I looked it up, and I was like, oh, so like this is the real deal. Like this is like sacred geometry, like
Yeah.
okay. And to see that, not knowing what it was, I was like, all right, okay, cool. And then
Ooh.
yeah, from there, I felt magical, because like when you get attuned to Reiki, your hands, well, for me, it felt like my hands were beating, like heartbeat in my hands for like a month. And that was super dope. I'm like, this is so cool. I'm like, oh, like earthbender.
I'm feeling the essence of everything.
Literally.
Yeah, that's fascinating, because my experience into, I won't say obviously the same experience, but a realization of certain channels opening up came through Qigong.
Okay.
And yeah, and just being able to really tap into spirit and source that way, and to start to feel the subtle energies. And this actually, I'm going to dive into this with you, because
Yeah.
the activations that have been kind of continually happening, I've been seeing in my own experience, at least this past like 2 months specifically,
For sure.
and it's been increasing. Energy sensitivity has just been through the roof.
Yeah.
Like it's been insane. And obviously it's been building for the past few months, and honestly like past like year, 2 years, but like
Yeah.
these past 2 months have just been like, I feel like each day more and more things are opening up,
Yeah.
and it's just like, wait, what do I feel that now? What is this?
Yeah. It's like, I don't
I'm
know if
like,
I like it here.
it's like, this ain't me. Well, and that's the thing. It's like energy sensitivity to others for me is way more tapped in, where it's just like I'm firsthand perceiving like a different energy within the experience. And usually I would have to like, rewind it to like past Pete, like 3 or 4 years ago. I'd have to consciously like re-remember that it's just like, wait, this isn't your energy, this is so and so, like this might
Yeah.
be so and so's, you might be feeling so and so over here. Just, it was the realization of other energy. There was no distinction of really who and where it was coming from. But now it's just like pinpoint, like something's behind me, something's over there, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
like what's going on? It's like extra spidey sense.
Literally.
Well,
No,
how
I
have the
know.
dreams been?
My dreams are yours.
No, I was gonna say, well, continue. Like, how are your dreams been? I'm just curious, like in terms of the
So like
rampant.
I astral travel regularly. Like I have things I have to do. Like I have and when I was in college, 2018, I graduated, I taught myself how to lucid dream. And then from there it was like, oh, so that's like what you're doing every day. And so I'm very aware when I'm in my dreams of the people that I'm engaging with, for the most part, if they're not strangers. But if it's people I know, I could tell you if I'm in the dream of another person. Like, and I've had the same dreams where I've shown up in a dream for people. Like my dad and I have shared dreams before, and that really freaked him out. But I've had a couple of friends that we've had similar dreams, or two, energetically understanding the people and like engaging with them, even if it may not be the same dream, the energy exchange was the same. But yeah, the dreams lately have been very I'm not going through my dreams trying to learn or remember about myself anymore. It's like I'm coming back as like the healer part of me, and like going to these places, whether it be people I know or people I don't. And yeah, but they're wild. Like they're just like everywhere. And so like boom, boom, boom. And like a couple last week, or no, this was a couple weeks ago. I had a dream where I was out on the ocean on a boat, and it was a big like ship, and there was a storm out on the ocean, and it was dark. It was nighttime, so you couldn't see anything. And then a flash of lightning struck, and it was just at the time that I was able to see a huge wave that was going to take out my ship. And I'm just like, shit. was like, well, this is where I die. That's fine, whatever. And I wake up in a dream and I'm on shore. And I'm like, I should not be alive. I should have drowned out in the middle of the ocean. Like, what? And like I go and talk to my mom, and I'm like, Mom, this crazy dream or this crazy thing just happened, and like I shouldn't be alive right now. And then I pulled some Moana shit and just like showed up on the shore. Like, and she's like, yeah, sure, whatever. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. You're gonna whatever me? That was incredible. Like that, are you kidding me? And then it's like I saw my brother and same thing. And everybody I engaged with was so like, okay, yeah, whatever, Sarah, like help me do this thing. And I'm like, you guys, like it matters what I'm doing. And when I woke up, I realized that I like how much bigger, like that was the start of me realizing how much bigger my powers are, and like who I share the things I share with, or who I share the things I share with them. Like I don't have to force conversations. I don't have to force lessons to be learned on people. Like literally the people will come to me. And so from that point forward, it was like, oh, okay. And this acceptance of like, oh, I literally like don't have to force anything anymore. Like there's just no way I could be this aligned and like have to like force happiness, you know, like it'll just be. And so
100%.
Yeah. What about you? What about your dreams? Or also thoughts?
Well, I would say in terms of dreams, I've been utilizing my own protocols for like dream school, as I like to call it. So asking for different things from spirit, you know, to learn, to heal from. And, you know, I'll listen to last half hour before bed, it's like shamanic drumming or music, and then kind of just getting that intentional setting of, okay, what would I like to learn? What would I like to see? What would I like to experience? And the reason why I was asking is because a lot of it is, I didn't make this realization until yesterday talking with a friend, but it was me kind of telling her about this dream that I was having like 2.5 weeks ago, something like that, about, you know, a bunch of like panic and essentially the different essences of just darkness and shadows and certain lights shining and growing brighter and more lights kind of growing from that, and kind of just this illumination happening, but it's a lot of fear and panic. And I've been feeling those energies for a while. And they were like, oh, I remember you saying that. And it's just like, it was all kind of right before all the Russia Ukraine stuff. So I was just like, you're right, interesting. You know, but I've had other dreams, and some of the other ones haven't really come to fruition yet, but things are lining up. And I think that's the kind of unique opportunity that those that are really aligned and tapping in have, is that the abilities and things that are coming into our awareness transcend all current understanding of things. You know, because I would say this past year, I've received a few dreams that have come to existence in their own light, or have been like clear warnings of what not to do. And we can't ignore that these abilities are happening more and more.
Right.
So when you have these experiences for yourself and you awaken, and, you know, you have these realizations and this like knowing of healing going on in the sleep and awakening, you know, how does that continue to validate your own process of this inner looking?
Yeah, I mean, I love it. I'm like, wow, thank you, Spirit, for giving me the opportunity to show up that way, because then it's like, it's a reminder to me, like, okay, I do know what I'm doing. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that I don't doubt myself sometimes. I had a mini breakdown today. Like, are you kidding me? And I think it gets a little tricky sometimes, because I have a hard time trusting certain signs, if that makes sense. Like, I try to not think about like the sign or the message itself, and more about how it makes me feel. Whether it be a dream or whether it be like me seeing things. And it's like, if it makes me feel good, it means that I need to like take it on. Or if it like makes me feel like not the best or uncomfortable, I don't know. I'm pretty aware about like when I'm not supposed to be, or like supposed to be doing something. And so but yeah, when the universal energies show up, or like the world, the earth's energies collectively show up, it just feels like a pressure. Like it doesn't, I don't know. I mean, what do you think it feels like for you, like differentiating between, you mentioned like other people's energy versus like your own, and like navigating that?
Well, I would say it's come to know my own base state and to really be more sensitive and aware to what the body has, what it is. I guess it's, it's the process of refinement. Like I've understood what the body is, but the more I kind of tap into the higher self, the more of the vehicle and I guess you would say like the mechanisms start to reveal themselves in the body. So for me, it's very much my mind is quiet. I usually do that for people where it's just like, because that's usually when they listen to the surroundings and they're like, I don't hear anything. And I'm like, that's it. Like that's the point,
Yeah.
It's that immersion with life. There's really no mental chatter unless it's kind of creative stuff where I want to tap into more. Like if I want to listen to music or something like that. But even then it's different. So for me, it was that switch of, I guess you would say, just holding that sense of separation, where it's knowing myself in the grand scheme of things, of just like, okay, this eternal energy, this one, window of awareness. I know this pureness and that loving energy that's always flowing through here. This is kind of this is my ground zero. Anything that comes in, it's instantly like, whoa, 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 whoa. It's like bodyguards. It's like, what's this? And it used to have to be a conscious process of me being like, whoa, 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 who's this? Now I don't even know. It's hard to actually even answer that question, because I don't think there was like a distinctive moment. I think it was just a random switch where it was just like, I don't have to try. It was just that realization where it was just like, whoa, like I'm feeling a lot of heavy shit going on right now, but I'm not having to do any type of breathing. I'm not having to do any type of just like envisioning any type of like, energy bubble, just straight up like, oh, I'm fully realizing that. This can kind of just go around. So it's hard. It was realized through the subtleties of my own recognition of my own being in my own base state, but I guess you could say, it just randomly grew into the new normal. And I guess that's the process of what's kind of happening for everyone, is that we're all assimilating into that like higher mode of operation. Like certain people I just don't fuck with anymore. I can't stand them. And it's not like, and for me, it's all love and light. It really is all love and light, but I'm going to love you at a deep fucking distance, because, like your energy and everything about your beingness is just we're so, I guess you would say, repulsive towards each other, that it's never going to be a loving exchange from how we each perceive love. So it's almost like that natural repulsion where they're just like, they're in their own field. They don't even want to come near me, so yeah, I guess you could say like life's been opening up a lot of things differently. So I'm curious just to see how more people and their abilities start to kind of awaken and level up. Because again, like I just see more stuff unfolding like each and every day. Well, about yourself, in terms of your connection with spirit, there's one question that I really want to dive into, and it's this term ancestor. Like how has this ancestral like concept or knowing or experience really impacted your journey of healing?
So my grandmother on my dad's side passed away 2016, and I just had an experience where I realized years after her passing that she was gifted as well. And for context as well, my dad's side of the family lives in Florida, and we're up here in Washington. So I didn't have a close connection with her. And so like that wouldn't have been something that maybe would have been expressed or what have you. But, I've tapped into some of the medium type essences or gifts. And, she's come to visit me just like a handful of times. And the last time she came to visit me, I was like, struggling. And she was like, if you could see what I could see, you would have no doubt about what is going on. And I just was like, and I just started crying. And when I mentioned the Reiki and how everybody was standing in a circle, that time after my grandmother came to visit, she's like, let me like introduce you to some people. And it's like we walked down this path, literally like as if we were walking into the gates of heaven. And dramatic, I know. But it was like, wow, we're so glad to see you. And I got to shake hands with these people that I don't know, but I do know. And it just, those times are far and few in between. I'm more connected with like spirit and like God than maybe the ancestors part of it. But it's like when they do show up and sing Kumbaya and we all sit in a circle and hold hands and real 10 of cups, rainbow energy. It's a great time. It's a great time. But I definitely am looking forward to diving into that. I've been asking spirit to place some shamans in my life because I'm like, I want to know more. I want to know more about this shamanic healing. I want to know more about the depth of it. And yeah, so there isn't a lot of like people that have passed in my life who maybe I connect with other than my grandmother, but it's very magical every time I do cross paths with her. So,
Ooh,
yeah.
it's magical and powerful because you said something to me that is kind of the most important part of the whole shebang of the spiritual journey, and it's this connection with source. Above all else, that's the highest and most important, really, connection to formulate first, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
I mean, for yourself, that love of creator, that love of life, that love of you, how does that come into your recognition? Like,
How
I'm
do I see
curious.
it?
Well, how is that just like in terms of you're kind of stumbling into this universal energy and this universal oneness and just coming home?
Oh, that one's gonna make me cry. So, this level of reassurance that my experience isn't wrong. I don't have to edit myself. I don't have to change what has been. I don't have to change what will be. I don't have to control what will be, if you will. And spirit reminds me of that at every step. And I have spirit animals that come and visit. I have a whole tribe of owls that follow me. And and in my dreams, and I see owls from time to time, but it's like the connection with them. It's the other day, actually, spirit was like, you're not just here to like heal people, you're also here to like feel the happiness. And it's so beautiful because not only are you getting to experience it as you, as Sarah, but we're getting to experience the human experience through you. And I'm like that makes my responsibility even more divine. Like I'm an expression of source and God's love and everything that is. And like, how could I not appreciate that about me? How could I not feel overwhelmingly joyful about how purposeful my path is, how purposeful me being here is? And so, yeah, thanks for asking that. I needed to remind myself of that today.
I love it. Well, with that, I got to say, Sarah, thank you so much for coming on Creative Chat. I'm going to have you stick around in the green room, but one last piece of advice or words of wisdom for our listeners before we transition on out.
Learn what love is for you so then you can love yourself, because without loving yourself, you won't be able to love anybody else. Oof, straight from spirit. Thank you.
And with that, we'll roll the outro.
Thanks again to our sponsors for making this show possible. Thank you, We Are Historically, for your conscious human apparel. Shop online at wearehistorically.com.
Raise your vibration and energize your life with specialized Fibonacci tuning forks that deepen meditations and empower self-healing. Get your vibrational sound tools for personal enhancement at energybodytuners.com.
Another creative art production by Retro Earth Studio.
That concludes this episode of Creatives Chat. Thank you for watching our show. Click the bell button to get notified of future episodes. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
We all have some form of information to exchange with each other.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is yet, and I won't know until I introduce myself.